Hello and welcome to another Gorilla Guide webinar. Today's topic, business intelligence in the cloud. Thank you so much for joining us on this fun, fast-paced event here. You'll learn from our experts at Rubrik and Qlik and a special keynote presentation on the state of business intelligence in the cloud with Mr. Scott Becker. Now, before we get started, there's just a few things that you should know about the event. If you aren't familiar with the Gorilla Guide book series, you should know that this webinar is based on that book series, and you can download the entire book series, which is ever expanding, over at gorilla.guide. These are free, easy to read enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts. Yes, they're all free. You can put them on your mobile device. You can read them on your iPhone or iPad or Kindle device, whatever you want to do to keep up to date on innovative enterprise technology. And these Gorilla Guides seem to make what otherwise is sometimes a boring topic a lot of fun to read and a lot of fun to learn about. You can find a link to gorilla.guide there in your handouts tab, or just point your web browser to gorilla.guide. On today's Gorilla Guide webisode, we'll be handing out some awesome prizes. I'll talk about those in just a moment. But we also want this to be educational, and we encourage your questions there in the questions pane. We'll be doing dedicated Q&A sessions with today's expert presenters, so keep your questions coming. We also want this to be a social event, and I'll share the hashtag here with you over on Twitter in just a moment. But first, I encourage you to check out the resources that are there in your handouts tab, hand-selected by today's expert presenters for additional information on today's topics. The prizes on the event today are 3 Amazon $100 gift cards. You must be live in attendance to qualify, and the winners will be announced live by me, the moderator, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. Of course, you must be present on the live event to be eligible for the prize drawings. If you're watching this on demand, those drawings would have already occurred. You always have the option to make a donation to selected charities, and all prize winners must submit an IRS form to Actual Tech Media. We'll reach out to you via email if you're a winner after the event. Over the years, we've partnered with the charities you see here on the screen, the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund and One Tree Planted. So if you win a prize and you'd like to donate it to charity, we would love to help you do that. The social media hashtag for today is Gorilla Guide over on Twitter. And you can follow me, David M. Davis, your moderator, as well as Actual Tech Media over on Twitter as well. I also encourage you to subscribe to the Inside the Guide podcast over in the Apple Podcast Store and all the other respective podcast stores as well. This is episode 1. There's many more episodes now, but it's a great way to stay up to date on cutting-edge enterprise technology. We're announcing more topics all the time: Kubernetes, cloud, 5G, and more. You can follow Actual Tech Media over on LinkedIn as well. You can do that right there in your audience console using the LinkedIn icon. And with that, it's time for today's keynote presentation on business intelligence in the cloud. I'm excited now to bring in Actual Tech Media's Scott Becker, industry veteran, speaker, and moderator. Scott, take it away.
Thanks, David. Before we introduce you to today's first expert presenter, I wanted to set the stage in the form of 5 things to know about business intelligence in the cloud right now. So business intelligence is both a concept and a practice. It's been around for a long time, but over the last few years, cloud-based BI solutions have been attracting most of the interest from IT departments. So that emergence of cloud is accelerating BI adoption and expanding access to BI and adding new challenges as well. The first big trend to look at is augmented analytics. And what that refers to is the way that BI solutions are expanding to bring together artificial intelligence and machine learning. So BI has always been about insights, but those insights were mostly anticipated by the architect of the BI solution at an individual company. So they were looking for very specific insights based on known relationships between relatively well understood data sets. With augmentation, solutions are bringing in algorithms and machine learning that allow the BI solution itself to discover useful relationships among data sets sort of on its own. And then these newer cloud-based BI solutions present those insights to users throughout the organization, and that's of course where they're potentially most useful. What that means is there's less need for upfront work on the part of IT specialists with BI expertise. And organizations are less reliant on those internal BI architects' understanding of both, technology and business, or at least that understanding can result in solutions that go further than those of the past. So this augmentation of BI solutions with artificial intelligence and with machine learning also means that we're seeing a merging of the BI field with data science fields. And that leads us to our next trend, which is the 30% cap. So Gartner and others have discussed a 30% adoption ceiling for BI solutions. And of course, that's not a hard and fast rule, but the expertise, the technical savvy, and the curiosity required for someone to really take advantage of BI traditionally meant that you're looking at a relatively limited number of an organization's employees that could benefit from a BI solution. Previously, it took sophisticated processes for those tool-driven insights from the data analysis experts to trickle down into the hands of the mid-level decision makers and to the field employees who could make daily use of it. But modern cloud-based BI solutions are starting to democratize BI in a way that the industry had been hoping to accomplish for a long time. So integration with day-to-day productivity tools and automatic surfacing of BI insights through some of the AI and machine learning advances that we were talking about a minute ago are starting to change the perceived limits on who can use those BI systems. So those first two things that we've just talked about were opportunities. Now let's look at some of the challenges that organizations are facing around BI. So data and vendor lock-in is one of the biggest challenges. The kind of data that benefits from business intelligence tends to be the crown jewels of the organization. It's important to know that the data can be reclaimed from Amazon or Microsoft or Google's data centers without major delays or substantial egress fees. It's also important to be sure that that data can be moved or analyzed in the cloud BI tool of your choice, no matter where it's stored, and that you're not locked into the cloud provider's proprietary tools. A related challenge is the ability to bring multiple data sources into a cloud BI implementation. The company, say the company order database that's stored in Azure has critical insights that can be mined by a BI tool. But many of the most business altering insights might come from combining that data with, say, Salesforce pipeline information or another vertical market application in AWS, or even with public sources of data, such as weather forecasts or commodity prices or news feeds. And you'll hear some interesting things today from our expert speakers about bringing multiple data sources together. And the final challenge is, last but not least, security. This is clearly not a problem unique to business intelligence, but think about what makes a BI system so valuable to an organization. It's the ability to bring together multiple data sources for unique insights. That exact same benefit makes the BI system itself extremely valuable to attackers. It's a potential window into the most valuable data that your organization has. So it's important to know about essential features for keeping cloud BI solutions secure and to understand where common misconfigurations in the BI solution or the underlying cloud data can potentially open your organization to attack. You do want your employees getting valuable insights from your cloud BI setup. You don't want to be providing any insights to hackers. So keeping what we've just talked about in mind, it's a great time to find out about some innovative solutions in this area. So back to you, David.
Thanks, Scott. Very well said. Appreciate those points. I learned a lot. And with that, it's now time to introduce you to our first presenter. Welcome, Kim Lambert, Principal Product Marketing Manager at Rubrik. Kim, take it away.
Product marketing team at Rubrik, and my focus is on how Rubrik ensures the availability of backup data in the cloud. So in the short time that we have today, I'm going to walk through some key challenges that you might face with data protection in the cloud. I'm going to talk about how Rubrik has built a zero trust data management platform to provide security at the point of data for business continuity, cloud acceleration, and cyber resilience, because that's what we at Rubrik do. We protect your data and your applications from ransomware, from operational failures with an immutable data backup and recovery platform. So first, let me start by setting the stage with what a lot of customers we talk to are trying to address as part of their organization's data backup and recovery initiatives. So the first is figuring out, of course, how do they solve for data management with hybrid or multi-cloud with a solution that supports and scales with them. Secondly, they're trying to modernize and automate the way that they run their digital estate. So their data management, it's got to be easy to automate and to integrate within their environment. And of course, they're tackling security risk. So data security and ransomware recovery, data governance, that's top of mind. So any data management solution would be incomplete if it didn't provide a recovery from cyber attack. But of course, there's a few challenges that complicate all of this. So one actually involves legacy data backup and recovery. What is it about a legacy approach that makes it a poor fit for cloud workloads and expanding cloud adoption? Well, with legacy operating models, legacy technologies that you may have been using for 20 plus years, there's a lot of complexity on the front end to deploying and configuring. So over the years, we've talked to clients that have wound up with hundreds of, if not thousands of jobs to maintain. Legacy systems, they can suffer from slow and inconsistent recovery. And then when you introduce cloud operating models, they struggle in hybrid and multi-cloud architectures, and they end up actually driving up costs. So think about the capital outlay to maintain and upgrade hardware, the cost and expertise to manage so many backup jobs, and then the cost of downtime and then missing recovery SLA windows. Now, another challenge has to do with the shared responsibility model. So think of it this way, regardless of how it's being consumed, if it's infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, it doesn't matter if someone's handing you a whole SaaS email or a collaboration tool app. In these delivery models, every single one of them, there's consensus among public cloud vendors that data protection is something that you need to consider as consumers of these platforms. And then the onus of data protection lies on you, the customer. So, this is especially tricky if you're hybrid, if you're multi-cloud, or if you're operating at an enormous scale. Okay, so fortunately at Rubrik, though, we help customers solve for cloud scale. So we do that while making sure that data is protected. Our platform, it can tie in regardless of where your organization is in building out your cloud presence. So if you're 90% on-prem today and you've got to be in the cloud in the next year, or you're born in the cloud and you're building all your apps in Google and you want to know how you apply security and governance to that framework, our software, it's designed to run anywhere. So you might be familiar with Rubrik already, but since 2014, Rubrik has set out to modernize legacy backup, consolidating and simplifying data management with a secure backup and recovery solution that's, number one, built to support all enterprise applications. Number two, built with cloud in mind. So we support all the major cloud players out there that you might be using, as well as Microsoft 365. And then our platform, it's built with an API first approach. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but the file system we built that underpins our platform, it's also natively immutable. So we combine that file system with a zero trust design in which operations can only be performed through authenticated APIs. So once data is written at a code level, it can't be read, it can't be modified, it can't be deleted. So this is actually great for giving you a baseline defense against ransomware. And of course, the whole reason that people invest in Rubrik and technologies like ours is so that they can quickly recover and restore operations in that event of a cyber attack. So keeping their data available and their business running. Now, for that, we actually deliver additional value beyond backup with insights for use cases like cyber resiliency and data governance. And we do this in the way actually that we index and manage and analyze the metadata of the backups themselves. So, we can look at change rates and see if ransomware has occurred. We can roll back and forensically identify how widespread the attack was. And then, of course, we've got data classification and sensitive data discovery tools that again, look at your backup metadata and can tell you where things like PII or HIPAA data lives within your estate. Okay, so I said, I wanted to talk about automation APIs. Everything at Rubrik begins with an API, and that's powerful because it's simple to automate with third-party tools. So you can manage Rubrik through the API, through code, just as simply as you can through the point-and-click interface. And most organizations that we work with have an automation strategy, and it's great for them that Rubrik can then tie into the tools that we show here. So Terraform, I'll mention, that's a big one. We have a dedicated Terraform provider that can provision things up and down as cloud workloads are built and ripped down. So for the cloud, there's three key capabilities you get with Rubrik that I want to cover. First, on the left here, the ability to archive to lower cost long-term cloud storage. And then the ability to launch existing apps in the cloud. So accelerating the move from on-prem with instantiation of virtual machines and applications. And then finally on the right here, helping customers protect their cloud native applications across clouds. So let's take a look at each of these, starting with cloud out. So cloud archival. What we see most customers do is if they have Rubrik backing their data up, they'll take an archive of that data back up, they'll send it to public cloud, maybe an AWS S3 bucket. The technology then does incremental forever on the archive. So it's efficient with how we're placing the data in the cloud bucket. And we can do other things like cost tier within these cloud buckets where we can optimize cost per gig. And then we can also automate that life cycle of how the data tiers and when it tiers based on policies, based on storage class. And that's all controlled within an SLA domain to dictate when and where you want the data archived. Because again, all the metadata is indexed, it's searchable. If you need to go pull data out of the archive, you can retrieve single files without pulling the whole VM back. So it's highly cost effective in searching. And then of course, we encrypt and provide immutable copies to really safeguard against ransomware. It's really an agnostic approach because we can tier data to cloud for long-term retention to any cloud provider as well as on-prem. Okay, so cloud on, this is cloud instantiation. If we continue down the example I gave, now you've archived data, say, to an S3 bucket. What cloud on allows you to do is to take that data living in the archive and then instantiate it to run in an AWS EC2 instance. So the magic happens when our software handles the conversion from, say, a virtual machine disk, a VMDK, to an Amazon machine image in AWS, and then lowers the recovery point objective significantly for workloads that you're converting. So for instance, if I have an app that's mission critical, it goes down in my data center and I want to now launch that app in the cloud, I can do that now in a couple of minutes. Another big use case, it's test dev. So maybe I want to take VMs that live in my data center and use Rubrik as the mechanism to migrate them to the cloud and then spin them up there so I can run testing. Once data is safe and secure in the cloud, Rubrik can also act as a component of your disaster recovery, your DR to the cloud strategy. Using the data in the archive, Cloud On allows you to lift and shift VMs into AWS, into Azure. And you can do migration in bulk. So we've had customers migrate thousands of VMs within a 24 to 48 hour span. Okay, so last piece, cloud native. This is a SaaS-based snapshotting tool. So what this software is used for is to protect workloads that are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service in the cloud. And after they've lifted and shifted or they've built things cloud native, our customers want to make sure that they can provide that same level of governance and security to things in the cloud. So the beauty of this is it's SaaS. So from a configuration standpoint, there's no running resources like compute or nodes in your cloud account. All we're doing is connecting via API from our console, which is just an aggregation of metadata. It's a control plane. So we connect from that control plane via API to your cloud account, and then off you go. Okay, from a protection standpoint, we have the ability to create a policy that spans hundreds of thousands of resources in the cloud by simply telling what kind of recovery point objective, recovery time objective that you want. For recovery, we have near zero RTOs, recovery time objectives. So you can recover things across region and account in the cloud. Everything's searchable. Also then from a security perspective, the snapshots we take are themselves immutable. So they can't be altered, they can't be encrypted. And those snapshots remain inside your cloud account until you decide not to. And there's reasons you do that. For instance, we could create a virtual air gap in the cloud by allowing you to replicate data from one account in one org like AWS to an entirely different org altogether. And we can do advanced things like that to defend against ransomware for resiliency at the point of data. And then finally, here from a usability standpoint, it's point and click. It's a multi-cloud dashboard experience that the operator can use for visibility in a way that native tooling that you would get from a cloud provider, it just can't do that across different clouds. But for cloud builders or DevOps folks, we have the ability to deploy this as code with a dedicated Terraform provider. Right, so you can auto provision Rubrik up and down as you're launching cloud templates across resources in AWS and Azure. So that's it. We talked about the ability to archive to the cloud. That's cloud out. We talked about instantiation or launch on cloud, cloud on. And then we talked about this last piece, which is how to protect data living in IaaS or PaaS in the cloud. We really believe we have one of the most elegant solutions out there from a cloud perspective for backup and recovery with a single command center, regardless of where your data lives or where it's going. All right, I will wrap things up on my end here by saying we'd love to hear from you at sales@rubrik.com. Check out our website for a bunch of different resources you can reference in the meantime. We've got a lot of technical resources dedicated to all of the public cloud providers as well.
Great presentation. Thank you so much, Kim. Really learned a lot about Rubrik and how it can help to enable business intelligence in the cloud and most importantly, even protect that data in the cloud. So I've just brought up a poll question for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about Rubrik? And I'll leave this up here for a moment, let everyone respond. We do want your feedback on this, and we have a lot of great questions rolling in as well. I'm routing all these questions over to the Rubrik team to respond to you on. But of course, always visit rubric.com for additional information as well. There's a link to rubric.com right there in your handouts tab. So I'll leave this up for another moment, let everyone respond, and then we'll move on to our next presentation on today's Gorilla Guide webisode. All right, if you haven't responded to the poll, now's the time to get in your response because we're about to move on to our next presentation. And with that, I'm excited now to introduce you to our next presenter. Welcome, Rocco Pecora, Technical Product Marketing Manager at Qlik. Rocco, take it away.
Hi everybody, my name is Rocco Pecora and I'll be presenting today's presentation on behalf of Qlik. Today's webinar is going to be on analytics in the cloud. My presentation is titled, The Cloud is the New Place for Business and Analytics. Just a quick introduction into myself. I'm a technical product marketing manager here at Qlik based out of New York City. 8 years in the BI and analytics space with a large background in consulting around various industries such as life sciences, energy and utilities, financial services, as well as retail and e-commerce. I'm really passionate around seeing organizations have that before and after effect of analytics and having a world-class experience of data and insights through the lens of data. So I love seeing companies culturally also adopt analytics in those ecosystems. On my personal time, I consider myself an average fisherman and definitely enjoy snowboarding whenever winter rolls around. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Quick legal disclaimer. Qlik roadmaps provide a general overview of our anticipated product direction as of the date hereof. Qlik undertakes no intention or obligation to update or revise any forward-looking statements contained herein, whether as a result of new information, future events, or otherwise. So with our Qlik Cloud offering, we are pushing this concept of active intelligence to our customers through a powerful combination of data integration and data analytics, creating a pipeline from raw data to informed action. Being able to free the data, putting it in a place that's very easy to find and consumable, having the capabilities to create the understanding around data, insights, and being able to act on those insights and outliers to have informed action. This pipeline is what we call active intelligence, and we're pushing it through our product portfolio, and you'll see that in the demo today. Genesis for any analytics data pipeline is freeing that raw data, whether it's in the cloud, on-prem, internal, or system created. It's important to have that extensive data connectivity as the foundation for any analytics pipeline. Once you have that data, you've sourced it, creating catalogs and libraries for data and having users being able to see its lineage, or having a governed catalog where they can shop for data, seeing metrics that have been created and curated for their business, even with analytics value scores and seeing popularity. This is all a very new type of interaction of data at that repository level. So having that data analytics ready is the first step into being able to understand it, and making it business ready for your users and your analysts and consumers, where they can go and explore data through ClickSense and leverage associative and AI capabilities to chat with the analytics and have conversations, all in the pursuit of uncovering richer insights easier and having the ability to collaborate from anywhere. And once you can do that, data, those insights, they become actionable. The system can embed those analytics into automated workflows. They can deliver sophisticated context-aware alerts in real time as the change happens. And this is what we call active intelligence, having this pipeline to be able to monitor and manage these data assets and creating the consumable, actionable, informed actions is a big part of active intelligence. So with that being said, I want to kind of prove it, right, through the demo. So let's get started. This is the homepage for Qlik Cloud, and here you can see this is my personal tenant. Just to give you a general tour, here's the welcome mat where you have additional resources such as how-to videos or tutorials like getting started with visualizations. And this entire homepage is totally customizable, as you can see here. And this is really important as users begin to create their own homepage and make it very personal towards their role and what they need to be successful within their job. So scrolling downward, I have different apps, data sets, charts that I've subscribed to, as well as notes where colleagues or team members can chat to me about something that they've seen across any analytics. The catalog is a very easy way to store all of your data assets. As you can see here in the types, I can see anything from charts to apps to data sets, notes, automations, and all of the different assets that I have. And I can also filter by owner. I could search by sales and very quickly see those different assets that have that in the title. So I want to go to a data source. So I'm going to just type, go to my data, and I'm looking for orders. So here we go. I'm going to open this data set, and this is really important, talking around that foundation for any analytics environment, which is the beginning of that pipeline, freeing data and making it analytics ready. So here I can see different attributes such as rows or size, and I can even profile the data where the platform is giving me insights on the metadata as well as the values within the fields. Quickly toggling, I can see a sample of this data set and confirm that it's the data set for me. It's what I want to start with. So even from here, I can create an application and start my journey. Collections are where users can create bundles of assets together. I've put one for sales to kind of just show you. I have notes, a chart that I'm subscribed to, as well as the app that drives most of my sales metrics. And I have all of them right there at my fingertips, bundled together for when I need them. So I'm going to begin asking a question. And I'm going to ask, show me sales of golf equipment and camping equipment by rep. This is our cognitive engine, and if I were to press info, you can see the context of how this is actually being created and what fields are being used to create this insight and this visualization, and the application that's been used to create it. Which is correct. I actually wanted to ask the recreation app. So I got a quick little insight, and I can actually explore this further. I actually want to add this to a sheet. So I'm going to add this to my demo sheet. And I very quickly kind of want to show you how all that works. So if I were to go to my vocabulary engine, this is where I can create business logic around how to use that Insight Advisor, because who doesn't mean the same for everybody, right? So in this instance, I've actually attached fields to specific words or terms and created guardrails around that experience, which is super important to make sure users get the insights that they're looking for. Going back into the application and back into the hub, I want to kind of quickly show you how you can start and add things. I can create a new analytics app. I can connect to data sources very quickly, just to show you all my Google data sources, which are very easy to get up and running. And I can also start automations, which is a new form of product within our portfolio that focuses on orchestration around cloud data sources or cloud systems such as repositories, Dropbox, CRM systems. And this is where you can use analytics to drive action. So thank you for joining me in this demo. I hope you guys saw a lot. I actually kind of want to finish it off with a little bit of action. And this is where I'm going to open an application. This is the recreation app we were in. And I'm actually going to go down to this demo app that I had, demo sheet that I had. And it actually still has my insights from that questions. So I'm going to clear these out. And I'm just going to add a couple selections. I'm going to drive this down into this div. And as you can see, very quickly, this return got called out. That looks very incorrect, right? I'm going to create an alert. You can see different alerts that I have set up. So this is the end of that pipeline where we talk about now that the data's analytics ready and the users have the ability to go in there, let's create some action. And this is how I can create an alert. It shows me the sales or the quantity. And I can say, when the quantity is greater than 0, because we have a lot of different negative returns. And I can create next. I can just say evaluate this alert when the data is refreshed. I can scroll down and create snoozes and share with other users, and I can create that distribution path. So all in just a few minutes, I showed how to interact with data, how to connect with data, and how to derive action from it. And it's very important that analytics in the cloud has to be this flexible to offer this many capabilities for users, all in a governed sense. So I really appreciate joining me in this demo, and thank you. With Qlik, you can lead with data.
All right, great presentation, really cool demo. Thanks so much, Rocco. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there. What additional information would you like about the Qlik solution? I see some great questions coming in already. Keep those questions coming because we're about to start our Q&A session here coming up, our Q&A panel, where I'll bring back in both Kim and Rocco to answer all of your questions. So I'll give everyone a moment here to respond to this poll and also, enter any questions you have about these two solutions there in the questions box. And then we'll start our Q&A. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. We do appreciate that. Let's get just a few more responses and then we'll kick off our Q&A session. Excellent, thanks everyone. Off our Q&A session with our two expert presenters, Kim Lambert from Rubrik and Rocco Pecora from Qlik. First question's for you, Kim. The question is, how does Rubrik differentiate in terms of protecting client clouds?
All right, I'll say that our differentiation is less about feature for feature, how we compare to AWS backup or Azure backup. It's more about unification across hybrid and across multi-cloud and giving customers visibility across their fragmented environment. We can provide a single software tool to manage everything regardless of where it lives. And then, also it's SaaS, right? So when you start looking at other tools out there to protect your data from the cloud, more often than not, they require running compute instances and servers and proxies in the cloud, which drive cloud resource costs up. It's a pure SaaS tool that connects via API.
Thanks, Kim. Next question's for you, Rocco. They're asking, what's the biggest obstacle when it comes to deploying analytics?
I think the biggest obstacle for most companies is they go into analytical investments with a very kind of clear objective, like one mission. And I think it's not that linear, right? You really kind of need a platform that's flexible for different users, different entries into that data pipeline, right? And every user, different people on different days are going to go into that data pipeline and start their journey in different places, whether that's starting with the data connection or asking a question through the Insight Advisor. So first and foremost, I think it's deciding to have a platform that's flexible across different users, those workflows, but also empowering the user base through data literacy, because the technical levels across your users are always going to be varied. But then also having a platform that's easy to use for the whole user base across admins, developers, and users. I think that's something else that really needs to be considered outside of just the consumption part. But how do those individuals work together, right? So data ops, developers that are collaborating or working with data stewards or testing, how can they all interact together in one platform? And I think that's where there's a lot of strength in having a platform that can do that.
Thanks, Rocco. Well said. Next question for you, Kim. If we need our data to stay in our cloud account, is that something that you all support?
Yes. In my earlier point, I talked about how Rubrik does cloud native backups. And the snapshots do remain in your cloud account by default, unless you tell it to replicate or you say in the SLA domain you want it in a different account in a different region. For orgs that must abide by GDPR, we can do this in a region specific level, so the data doesn't leave your country as well.
Thanks, Kim. I know that's important to a lot of folks out there. Next question, back to you, Rocco. They want to know, when it comes to business intelligence, what's a consideration that you find goes commonly unnoticed?
It really comes down to data location and data gravity. Even though you have data sources and more source systems going into the cloud, you're still having, you may have on-prem data sources, you may have on-edge IoT data sources. So the source, universe for data is going to just keep growing. But having that connectivity, whether no matter where that data is, and being able to bring that into the platform is just the first step. But the consideration that may go unnoticed is the governance layer to that, right? Having that lineage for that data, understanding it, and then really having clarity on its impact across the organization. Just an example, current year sales, current year revenue. What is the true metric calculation that the rest of the organization should be using? And how many times is that being used elsewhere? Has it been changed? Just having that metric alone, I think as a stakeholder of an analytics department, I think is very important as you build out these data ecosystems, that you can track that lineage across your source systems and your data assets.
Thanks, Rocco. Next question back to you, Kim. They want to know, is there anything that would impact how you deploy Rubrik if you're currently on-prem but plan to move to the cloud?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'd say the biggest things that impact how you deploy Rubrik is, well, we want to know where the source of the data is. So for the things on premises that need to be backed up, you'd back that up with some type of cluster that lives in the data center. And then commodity hardware that scales from terabytes to petabyte scale. But our software, it's sold in subscription, it's flexible, so it's a flexible license that follows the data. If you're mostly on-prem today, but 3 years from now, it's a completely different story, and you're mostly in the cloud. The great thing is that the software follows the data, so you don't have to repurchase software as the workloads migrate.
Thanks, Kim. All right, Rocco, they want to know here, how important is user experience when it comes to running analytics in the cloud?
It's critical, right? I mean, as mentioned, there's a lot of different user types and personas within the analytical, work chain now. And I think first and foremost, all of those users have to be empowered in their own workflow, right? Whether that's data connectivity, data prep, being able to create data catalogs as a steward or an admin, but then also building out expressions, loading data models, and then just the users having the ability to create alerts, subscribe to charts, customize their own homepage. It's all very kind of in depth with the different users. So I think all of those users having that the ability to customize, right, is just a step closer for adoption because they feel comfortable in that homepage, that hub that they land in every day to start their analytical journey. Or they've decided to create alerts because they just want to work like that. Maybe they're off-site a lot. That it's really all about building out this ecosystem for your data assets and your analytics that can be consumed by a variety of different users in different scenarios. And I think that's what builds user experience is the trust that the data is correct, and we kind of showed that through catalog, and B, that I'm getting the right data, right? And having the ability to chat, conversate with, the insight advisor. It's all about interaction with data and making people feel comfortable in which any channel they want to interact with it. So user experiences and user satisfaction should always be a KPI for deploying analytics, and your users are going to tell you exactly what they need. So, it's a pretty easy kind of trail to follow when kind of gauging an analytics deployment. And for Qlik, as we saw in the demo, we try really hard to make it very personal for any type of user.
Thanks for elaborating on that, Rocco. Great points. Now back to you, Kim. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the ransomware recovery process with Rubrik? I mean, so many companies are being hit with ransomware. This, I think, is an important question.
Sure. So, our SaaS-based ransomware recovery tooling, and I'll say it, at Rubrik, we call that functionality Radar. It's something that gives you scoped anomaly detection. So it helps you understand with precision after a ransomware attack exactly which point in time in your data backup that you'll need to recover from. And then the system will actually suggest that option to you before initiating recovery. It utilizes powerful workflows to do that investigation. So it's going to help you pinpoint the timing for your data anomalies and the scope of the attack. And then with that ransomware recovery functionality, we're also integrating with Palo Alto Cortex XSOAR, as well as the ServiceNow incident response products. And that will help IT operations teams and security ops teams work together when they really need to. With predefined ransomware playbooks for orchestrated recovery. And we've got some great content on that on our website if you'd like to learn more. Now, the other part of the question was on sensitive data discovery, and our SaaS-based tooling, which we at Rubrik call Sonar, that helps you identify high-risk user activity to protect your sensitive data. So you can very quickly scan across your environment for where your regulated data is. And you can correlate user access with data deletions, encryptions, or modifications. And then you can proactively look through your whole data environment to figure out where your sensitive data is, and also which users are accessing it. So, in this way, you can better take control of managing your organization's business risk.
Thanks, Kim. That ransomware recovery is just critical for every company out there these days. Now, Rocco, back to you. Here's kind of a fun question. They're asking, what's your favorite part of the Qlik solution?
My favorite part, coming from the consulting side, is really synergies and seeing that integration across teams and different stakeholders. So the collaboration piece in notes or application automation, where analytics or a calculation becomes the starting point for a workflow or a work chain of automation. So I really like that part, and I think Qlik's doing fantastic at enabling the next generation of use cases with data in the cloud.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kim and Rocco. Really great Q&A session there. So many good questions and excellent answers. I'm afraid we're running out of time in our live Q&A session. We'll have to get back to everyone's questions electronically for those that we didn't have time for. I do want to remind everyone, of course, don't forget about the handouts tab. There are some special resources there. And of course, don't forget to visit qlik.com and rubric.com as well. And with that, it's now time for our prize announcements. All right, we have 3 Amazon $100 gift cards. These are going out to Jason Powell from Tennessee, Barry Graham from North Carolina, and Kevin Schneck from Texas. Congratulations to all the prize winners. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Gorilla Guide podcast. There's a link to it right there in your handouts tab. We've got some awesome content out there over in the iTunes podcast store or wherever you download your podcasts. And of course, don't forget to check out gorilla.guide to download free educational IT books. You can find a link to that right there in the handouts tab, or just visit gorilla.guide. Thank you to Rubrik and Qlik for supporting today's Business Intelligence in the Cloud Gorilla Guide webisode. I hope that everyone enjoyed this event. Thank you all for your support and your great questions. We wish you the best and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.